biggest favorite part is the customer always has to be right.
You could possibly say right now to me.
Well,
None.
it was him, obviously. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have acted that way.
That makes it worse.
Welcome to the wild world of the worst firings on Undercover Boss, a no-holds-barred roundup of the most jaw-dropping, camera-captured terminations in corporate television history. Get ready to witness what happens when high-ranking executives swap their suits for aprons, sneak into the trenches, and discover who's really upholding the brand and who's secretly setting it on fire. Spoiler, the ones who talk trash or treat customers like a nuisance never see it coming, and the fallout is chef's kiss brutal. In this countdown, we're bringing you 7 unforgettable moments where poor attitudes, explosive outbursts, and just plain bad behavior met their match in the form of a hidden CEO. From fast food fiascos to gym floor meltdowns, these stories prove that arrogance, disrespect, and rule-breaking in the workplace don't just get noticed, they get broadcast. But before we dive headfirst into this epic saga of undercover justice, do us a quick favor, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and drop a comment telling us which firing hit hardest, or share your own unbelievable boss or coworker story. You might just land a feature in a future episode. So grab your popcorn or maybe a rotisserie chicken and settle in. These CEOs didn't just go undercover, they went off. 5. Models Sporting Goods, this player got benched. Landing at number 5 is a retail disaster straight from Undercover Boss Season 5, featuring none other than Models Sporting Goods. CEO Mitchell Modell went undercover to spot rising stars among his store staff, but instead, he ran into a serious foul.
Oh my God, I'm going undercover because...
One employee's attitude missed the mark completely. What they didn't realize, that the awkward new guy shadowing them was actually the CEO of a 100-year-old family legacy. Imagine this. Joe the trainee, aka Mitchell in costume, standing quietly while a bitter staffer loudly griped about customers, mocked their questions, and bashed the company's products and pricing. Everything here's overpriced, they scoffed, adding, "This place is such a joke." Then they tried to recruit Mitchell into the negativity. Am I right? Isn't this place the worst? Mitchell bit his tongue and nodded just enough to keep his cover, but under that wig, you can bet he was fuming. If there's a textbook way to get fired, it's by insulting your employer directly to their face on national TV. Once the charade ended, Mitchell ditched the disguise and brought out the boardroom energy. Gone was the awkward trainee, he returned sharp-dressed and all business, and he wasted no time. The employee's disrespectful behavior, completely unacceptable. Mitchell made it crystal clear Models stands for valuing the customer, and anyone who openly disrespects shoppers or the company itself won't be sticking around. It wasn't just a termination, it was a straight-up statement. Bottom line, insult the brand, lose the job. The worker was blindsided. One minute they were cracking jokes about the company, the next they were being dismissed by the CEO himself. It was the ultimate professional misstep. Audiences at home could practically hear the referee's whistle as Mitchell made the call. What made this moment really sting was the contrast. Earlier in the episode, Mitchell had been touched by several dedicated employees. One was even living in a homeless shelter. Mitchell generously stepped up to help them, showing genuine empathy. But when faced with someone spreading negativity on the sales floor, there were no rewards, no kind words, just a clear and final exit. Viewers had zero sympathy. One tweet nailed it, trash-talking the CEO's company to his face. That's not brave, it's just stupid. Fans applauded Mitchell's no-nonsense approach. Social media buzzed with praise. One commenter joked, "That guy thought he was warming up for the big leagues. Mitchell cut him before the game even started." The firing became a textbook case of why you should always watch your words, especially when you think no one important is paying attention. The irony hit hard, and it hit fast. In retail, customer service isn't a perk, it's the whole business. Models made that crystal clear. If you treat customers poorly, you're not just doing a bad job, you're showing the door to yourself. Mitchell didn't just defend his company, he sent a message loud and clear. Attitude matters, loyalty matters. The people who lift others up will thrive. Those who drag the team down they're off the roster. It's moments like this that keep Undercover Boss must-watch TV. The disguises are fun, the twists are great. But the heart of the show lies in these real-world reckonings where values get tested and hard choices get made. For Mitchell Medell, there was no hesitation. One toxic attitude didn't just end in a firing, it became a nationwide reminder that respect isn't optional in the world of customer service. 4. Bikini Sports Bar and Grill, Uniform Uproar, aka It's Called Bikinis Not T-Shirts. Coming in at number 4 is what might be the most jaw-clenching firing ever aired on Undercover Boss. In Season 6, Doug Guller, CEO of Bikini Sports Bar and Grill, donned a disguise to go undercover at his chain of bikini-themed sports bars. What unfolded was a painful blend of awkward decisions and out-of-touch leadership that left viewers shocked and Twitter ablaze. At the center of the controversy, a bartender named Jessica. While undercover as Jake, Doug observed Jessica doing a solid job overall, though she had a couple of slip-ups like overpouring drinks and mentioning she had bigger aspirations beyond working at a restaurant. But what really set Doug off? Jessica refused to wear her bikini top during a promotional shoot, choosing instead a branded t-shirt out of respect for her grandmother, who might see the episode. She wore the usual uniform on normal shifts, just not on national TV. Sounds reasonable, right? Not to Doug. He was furious. Off camera, he fumed that he was fucked pissed, ranting, "It's called bikinis, not t-shirts." You could practically hear the queso bowls tremble as he vented.
Jessica's not in a bikini top. I was pissed.
When Doug finally dropped the undercover act, things turned downright cringy. He sat Jessica down for her final review, and while he mentioned her other mistakes, he made it clear that refusing to wear a bikini on camera was the primary reason for firing her. Jessica was blindsided, tearful, and confused as she was let go essentially for choosing modesty. The termination instantly became one of the show's most talked about and polarizing moments. Doug's message, if you won't bare skin, you can't work at bikinis, but it didn't stop there. Moments later, Doug threw gasoline on the fire. He offered another employee, Grace, a reward for her performance: free breast augmentation. That's right. He told her, keep up the good work for 6 months and I'll pay for your boobs. Grace was thrilled, laughing that the enhancement would make her job easier since they do the talking. Yes, that was actually said on TV. One woman was terminated for not revealing enough, and another was encouraged, literally with surgery, to reveal more. It was like a satire, except it was real. The public reaction was swift and brutal. Outrage erupted across social media. Words like misogynistic, tone-deaf, and gross dominated the conversation. Even Time magazine covered the mess, calling out Doug for firing Jessica and incentivizing implants, noting that the Twitterverse was not pleased. What was supposed to be a feel-good episode turned into a corporate PR disaster. And just a side note, a few years later, the entire Bikinis chain went under. Coincidence or karma catching up? As far as brutal terminations go, this one was pure frostbite. Doug Guller made it clear his company's image took precedence over an employee's personal boundaries. The headlines rolled in, but none of them were flattering. If there was one silver lining, it was the internet's ability to turn it all into comedy gold. Memes exploded. One popular punchline: dress code violation, someone grab a napkin. The absurdity practically became self-aware. In the end, Jessica walked out with her dignity and the overwhelming support of the audience. Doug, on the other hand, walked straight into one of the biggest PR faceplants the show had ever seen. This episode wasn't just controversial, it was a masterclass in how not to manage a brand. The lesson: if you're running a so-called family-friendly business, maybe don't fire someone for choosing modesty, especially on primetime television. Among all the Undercover Boss terminations, this one wasn't the loudest or the most vulgar, but it was the most publicly scrutinized. It wasn't just a bad look, it was a flaming neon sign of corporate misjudgment. This one's not fading from memory anytime soon. It's a bizarre recipe of workplace ethics, leadership failure, and unintended comedy, topped with corporate queso and bad judgment. 3. Retro fitness, ranting her way off the roster. Flexing into the number 3 spot is one of the most outrageous firings ever featured on Undercover Boss Retro Fitness Season 4. Meet Jacqueline, a front desk manager who turned the gym into her own personal complaint center and gave a jaw-dropping performance in terrible customer service. Her audience, none other than Undercover CEO Eric Casaburi. If rudeness were a competitive event, Jacqueline would have set a world record. She thought she was coaching a clueless rookie named Barry. Little did she know, Barry was actually Casaburi himself, founder and CEO, secretly assessing her behavior. And let's just say, it didn't end in a promotion. Right out of the gate, Jacqueline let her attitude fly. She openly bragged about ignoring customers so she could be on her phone and dished out sarcasm like it was a free trial. Highlights from her highlight reel included lines like, "Members are literally stupid," and "Sometimes I just want to punch people." These weren't whispered under her breath. This was full-volume venom. Meanwhile, Eric was trying not to fall off a treadmill from sheer disbelief. The tipping point? When Barry asked for help, Jacqueline fired back, "I'm not your egg slave." Full meltdown, full volume, right in front of coworkers, gym patrons, and of course her boss in disguise.
Be obnoxious. I'm not a slave. I don't work for you.
The place froze. Staff and customers alike were stunned into silence as her angry outbursts echoed off the lobby walls. At one point, she even screamed at a member about an unpaid bill, so harshly it stopped everyone in their tracks. Eric returned to the gym minus the disguise, and the look on his face screamed, "We need to talk." To help drop the hammer, he brought along franchise owner Bob. Together, Eric and Bob sat Jacqueline down and didn't pull any punches. Bob delivered the verdict clearly, "We have to part ways. I can't keep you behind the front desk with behavior like this. I'm disappointed." Corporate speak for, "You're fired, effective immediately." Jacqueline's response, pure indifference, no apology, no regret. "Maybe I said the F word." She shrugged like she forgot her locker combo. "I can't even deal," she added, finishing with one more muttered curse for the road. If there was a medal for least remorseful exit, she would have earned gold. The firing was swift, brutal, and absolutely earned. Eric never raised his voice, he didn't have to. His stance was firm. There's no place for toxicity in a service-driven business. And viewers loved it. Social media erupted with praise. One person tweeted, "Glad they got rid of the lunatic at the front desk." Eric himself even tweeted afterward, "I don't fire people, they do it to themselves." Drop the mic. In losing Jacqueline, Retro Fitness gained something even more valuable, a textbook case of what happens when ego meets accountability. Her behavior became notorious, an instant example of how not to act at work, especially in front of leadership. She wasn't just dismissed, she became internet shorthand for a total workplace meltdown. This firing also nailed the essence of Undercover Boss, CEOs stepping into the trenches to see what's really happening. In this case, Eric unearthed an employee whose behavior had been poisoning the environment for who knows how long, but instead of dodging the issue, he tackled it head on. As Eric would probably say himself, in business, your strongest muscle isn't your chest or your core, it's your ability to cut loose the weight that's dragging the team down. In the gym world, bad form gets corrected, and this one, she got benched for good. 2. Checkers and Rallies, a full shutdown served cold. Next up is the unforgettable showdown at Checkers and Rallies, Season 3. A firing so explosive, it's still one of the most iconic moments in Undercover Boss history. This wasn't your typical dismissal. It was a public takedown of a manager so out of control that the undercover CEO stepped in and shut the whole place down during dinner service. The boss, Rick Silva, the problem? A general manager named Stevens. This episode didn't just feature a firing, it featured a full-scale restaurant shutdown, live on TV. Here's how the chaos played out. Rick Silva went undercover at one of his Florida locations, flipping burgers and working the fryer like any new recruit. But something felt off, the team looked on edge, and it didn't take long to find out why. Stevens, their GM, was running the kitchen like a boot camp. One employee, Todd, confided that Stevens regularly yelled at the staff and even threatened to physically harm them if they didn't keep pace. That's right, the guy was basically leading with intimidation. Rick saw it all firsthand. While training with Todd, Stevens snapped at him for simply speaking and later barked at Rick himself. The workplace tension was thicker than a double-stacked burger. Things hit a boiling point when Rick, still undercover, gently tried to address the hostile environment.
If you go on overtime, I can take you outside and beat you up, right?
That's when Stevens blew up. Outside the restaurant, he lashed out, growling, "Don't accuse me of mistreating my crew. Have you even worked in fast food before?" Unknowingly, he was barking at the CEO of the company. Rick, still playing the newbie, replied, "No, I haven't." But Stevens kept going, defending his aggression and belittling Rick's assumed lack of experience. That was it. Rick had reached his limit. The undercover act was over. Rick looked him dead in the eye and dropped the bombshell. "Let me level with you. I've worked in this industry for over 20 years, and I'm the CEO of Checkers and Rally's Boom." The reveal didn't happen in a boardroom or during the wrap-up. It happened right there in the grease-slicked parking lot, mid-confrontation. Stevens froze mid-rant. And Rick didn't stop there. "We're shutting this place down. Now." And he meant it. Right on the spot, Rick ordered the entire restaurant closed. Staff were dismissed immediately. The shift was over, not paused, not restructured, just done. The stunned employees, especially Todd, watched their undercover boss turn into a real-life hero. It was like watching Clark Kent become Superman. You might be wondering, was Stevens technically fired? Officially, Rick said he was pulling him from that location and sending him for retraining. But let's be real, that's often corporate code for pack your things. By the next day, a new manager was running the store, and Stevens was out. Viewers didn't need an official pink slip to know what that meant. What made the whole thing unforgettable wasn't just the action, it was the words. When Stevens challenged Rick's credibility and Rick coolly responded with, "I'm the CEO of this company," it became instant television gold. You could almost hear viewers yelling yes at their screens. The scene made headlines beyond the episode, with media calling it a textbook example of decisive, compassionate leadership. One outlet nailed it. Rick Silva was so disgusted, he broke character and shut the whole thing down.
CEO for this company.
Later, Rick said there was no way he could leave his team in that environment. He meant it. This wasn't just a disciplinary moment, it was a powerful stance against abuse in the workplace. Rick Silva didn't just let someone go, he dismantled a toxic setup right in front of the cameras. Stevens didn't just lose a job, he was publicly unmasked by the very leader he had unknowingly insulted. And the best part? No one disagreed. Unlike other firings that sparked debate, this one had fans cheering. Rick wasn't just a boss, he was the boss who did the right thing. That's why this firing landed so high on the list. It had everything: intensity, justice, a CEO reveal, and a not-so-silent villain getting booted. As Rick said while walking away, "We're done here." And just like that, Stevens was off the schedule for good. 1. Boston Market, rotisserie meltdown, when hating customers backfired. Kicking off our countdown is a jaw-dropping moment from Undercover Boss Season 4 that left jaws on the floor and one very bitter employee out of a job. This Boston Market episode made history. It was the first time someone got fired during filming, and honestly, Ronnie brought it on himself. He was a shift supervisor tasked with training what he thought was a new server. In reality, the trainee fumbling with trays was none other than Sarah Bittorf, the company's chief brand officer undercover. Ronnie, oblivious, skipped small talk and jumped straight into a tirade, bashing customers in front of, you guessed it, his disguised boss.
Children and old people are literally the worst I've ever seen in my entire life.
As the lunch rush picked up, Ronnie couldn't stop venting to his new coworker, ranting about how much he loathed the very people paying his paycheck. "I hate customers more than anything in the whole world," he said, on camera. He called customers needy, selfish, and demanding, scoffing, "It's all about them all the time." Yes, this was all happening on national TV. The irony, he worked in the hospitality industry. Meanwhile, Sarah, still undercover, listened in stunned silence, her disbelief growing with each insult. As someone passionate about guest experience, she was shaken. Eventually, she had to step away just to cool off. "This can't go unaddressed," she told producers, clearly seething. Then came the dramatic reveal. Sarah pulled Ronnie aside and dropped the bombshell. She wasn't a trainee, she was the chief brand officer. His face reportedly drained of color as he realized the woman he'd been insulting was his boss's boss. She didn't waste a second. Right there in front of the cameras and a nearby manager, she fired him. "Without customers, we don't have a business, and you don't have a paycheck," she said coldly, roasting him harder than any of their rotisserie chickens. The decision was quick and decisive. Though it ended her undercover mission, Sarah stood up for the company's values, and viewers loved her for it. But Ronnie wasn't done embarrassing himself. Instead of showing any remorse, he doubled down. "I didn't think I did anything that bad," he said afterward, shrugging off the whole thing. "It's not wrong to hate people," he insisted, completely missing the point. In a follow-up interview, he even whined, "No one hears me say it, so it's not a big deal, but now this giant lady of Boston Market knows, and that's just not fair." Yes, he actually referred to Sarah as the giant lady of Boston Market. Pro tip, insulting your boss's appearance on TV probably won't help your case. His sheer arrogance stunned viewers and also entertained them. The internet lit up with reactions. Many applauded Sarah's decision, with comments like, "Good riddance, Ronnie," and "You don't belong in customer service if you hate customers." It struck a nerve for anyone who's ever had to deal with rude, unhelpful service. Sarah's firing wasn't just necessary, it was cathartic. For Boston Market, it sent a clear message: if you don't respect the people you serve, you don't belong on the team. The takeaway? Sarah's on-the-spot firing was tough but totally warranted. In any service industry, contempt for customers is a ticking time bomb. Ronnie became a viral case study in how not to act on the job. His behavior resonated with people tired of being mistreated by staff, and Boston Market drew a line in the sand that day. Ronnie's rant earned him a one-way ticket to the Undercover Boss Hall of Shame and a permanent vacation from fast casual dining. He was seared, smoked, and thoroughly dismissed. And there you have it, ever captured on Undercover Boss. From the bikini-clad chaos at a controversial bar chain, to a front desk disaster at a gym, to a retail worker who couldn't stop dissing the very company paying them, these weren't just pink slips, they were wake-up calls, loud, public, and incredibly satisfying. We watch CEOs toss aside their wigs, fake mustaches, and all pretense of patience to lay down the law, not just to protect their brands, but to defend the values that keep their companies running. Whether it was a staffer getting fired for refusing to wear less, or a manager literally causing a shutdown with his toxic behavior, each of these firings proved one thing. When you play games in the workplace, sometimes the boss shows up wearing a mic. But this isn't just about the spectacle. These episodes spotlight what happens when workplace ethics go head-to-head with unchecked ego. Some employees rose to the moment, others, they crumbled. On national TV, no less. Now it's your turn. Which moment blew your mind the most? Were these bosses too harsh or spot on? Hit that like button if you love a little boardroom drama, subscribe for more corporate showdowns, and share your own outrageous work stories in the comments below. Until next time, just remember that new trainee might be your CEO, and the cameras are definitely rolling.